In 10.1.7, we're finally getting Undead Heritage armor, which has been long craved for ever since Heritage armor was a thing. But what are the Forsaken people? And is their heritage any more than just mindless zombies living in the sewers? The Plague of Undeath was created specifically to eradicate the living population of Azeroth to prepare for the Burning Legion's imminent arrival. Spread through plagued grain across the human and elven kingdom of Lordaeron, the Plague of Undeath quickly turned the living into the Lich King's mindless scourge. Prince Arthas Menethil, champion of the Lich King, decimated Lordaeron during his campaign of destruction. After every human and elf that died, a new Scourge soldier was created to fight for the Lich King and the Burning Legion, even taking the life of the High Elf Ranger General Sylvanas Windrunner, transforming her into a wailing banshee. Illidan Stormrage, the Night Elf leader of the Demon Hunters, laid an assault on Icecrown, domain of the Lich King, and Arthas was called back to protect the Frozen Throne. During the siege on Icecrown, the Illidari had been such a threat to the Lich King that his grasp on the Scourge drastically weakened to the point that they were miraculously gaining free will and regaining old memories. The now free-willed undead people rallied behind Sylvanas Windrunner, the Banshee Queen, in an attempt at surviving the realization that they were all now just monsters of undeath. Sylvanas and the newly freed Forsaken people had a new enemy, their former master, the Lich King. The Forsaken needed a home and needed allies if they were going to claim their vengeance, so they marched upon the ruins of Lordaeron and transformed the sewers into the toxic and putrid Undercity. After suffering so many losses at the hands of the Scourge, the Alliance people were nowhere near ready to trust the Forsaken, nor would they recognize their sovereignty as a people. Sylvanas had no choice but to seek allies across the sea in the newly formed Horde. The Forsaken were asked to help heal them back to their former human selves in exchange for loyalty and a major foothold in the Eastern Kingdoms. The Horde, like the Alliance, were originally distrustful of the Forsaken after so many years of fighting against the Scourge. But after deliberation with the shamans of the Earthen Ring, War Chief of the Horde, Thrall, agreed to allow the Forsaken entry into the mighty Horde as an offer of redemption. After joining the Horde, we find our Forsaken society thriving in the Undercity, and even successfully waging war on the Alliance territories on behalf of the Horde. The Forsaken had taken many lands across the northern parts of the Eastern Kingdoms, and even had came to the aid of the Blood Elves after they too had joined the Horde. But finally, the Forsaken had a chance at vengeance with the return of the Lich King in Northrend. One of the newly built Forsaken towns was New Agamand in Howling Fjord, Northrend. This was the first major Horde settlement in Northrend, and quickly housed a dark secret. Grand Apothecary Putris, appointed by Sylvanas herself as leader of the Royal Apothecary Society, had been working on another plague of undeath, but this time it was planned to not only kill the living, but the Scourge as well. During the war against the Lich King across Northrend, the Forsaken were valuable allies to the Horde in nearly every battle up until the Battle of Angrathar, the Wrathgate. The Horde and the Alliance were actually fighting alongside each other against a common enemy. When the Lich King himself made an appearance on the battlefield, Grand Apothecary Putris used this opportunity to strike vengeance and unleashed his new undead plague, killing Scourge, Horde, and Alliance forces alike. Many lives were lost, including Sarfang's son and Bolvar Fordragon, but Arthas escaped anyway. Sylvanas, furious at Putris' betrayal at Angrathar, stormed into the Undercity with Thrall and retook it from Putris and his traitorous allies, the Dreadlords. What the Horde and the Alliance didn't know was that Sylvanas gave Putris a direct order to fire on sight if he had the chance at striking the Lich King, even if that meant innocent casualties. Sylvanas had slowly been betraying her own people from within their own home. The Alliance, Horde, and Argent Crusade eventually slay the Lich King in what is arguably one of World of Warcraft's best raids, Icecrown Citadel. With the Lich King gone and the Forsaken's vengeance achieved, a new problem was presented. The dead could no longer be turned into Forsaken without the Lich King. During the Cataclysm, Sylvanas solves this problem by claiming the Lich King's Valkyr as her own, using their necromantic powers to raise a second generation of Forsaken. The final chapter of the Forsaken's history takes place after Sylvanas is begrudgingly made War Chief of the Horde, following Vol'jin's death. With Sylvanas occupied as War Chief and dealing with the Fourth War against the Alliance, the Undercity needed new leadership, so a few notable members of the Forsaken started the Desolate Council to govern and maintain the Forsaken's way of life. The Desolate Council was such a success that Kalia Menethil, sister of the former Lich King, reached out with the King of Stormwind, Anduin Wrynn, in an attempt at uniting the Forsaken with their living relatives of Azeroth. This gathering, however, was not successful, as Sylvanas, of course, only had treacherous intent. At the gathering, she killed and razed many of these living members of the meeting with her Valkyr, including Kalia Menethil. The moment the world began to really realize Sylvanas was up to no good was after this, though. It was during the battle for Darkshore. She ordered her army to burn down the World Tree, the home of the Night Elves, Teldrassil. Burning this tree meant the balance of life and death was now askewed, and the Night Elf society was destroyed in an instance. This was virtually genocide, and Sylvanas was no better than the Lich King in the eyes of many, both Alliance, Horde, and even her own Forsaken. Just as the Forsaken once did, the Alliance sought vengeance and marched upon Lordaeron Keep with full force. Sylvanas, unwilling to lose at all costs, makes the decision to let loose Putres's plague of undeath upon the battlefield, killing Alliance, Horde, and annihilating the Forsaken's home in one move. Now, with their only home destroyed by their own queen and war chief, the Forsaken found themselves to be refugees once more, living in Orgrimmar, the capital city of the Horde. This was the last straw. The Alliance and the Horde finally united to stop Sylvanas from further bloodshed. Varrock Sarfang, with Anduin Wrynn and Thrall by his side, arrive at Orgrimmar with an army ready for battle. Instead of further lives lost, Varrock makes the decision to challenge Sylvanas with Mat Gorah, an orcish challenge to claim the mantle of war chief. Naturally, the Banshee Queen quickly struck down Varrock, but not before he stirred the hearts of the Horde and even the Forsaken themselves.
You cannot kill hope. You tried at Teldrassil. You failed. Hope remains. You set us to kill each other at Lordaeron. You failed. Here we stand. You just keep failing. The Horde will endure. The Horde is strong.
The Horde is nothing! You are all nothing!
For Azeroth!
If you could see yourselves as I see you. Toy soldiers in tin plate. Beasts who howl for honor, standing as one. Savor it. Nothing lasts.
The Forsaken had finally seen firsthand that their own Banshee Queen, that they loved, worshipped, and died for, cared nothing for them. Even though Sylvanas won this battle, she lost the war, ending the fourth and final war between the Horde and the Alliance. In order to rebuild after the battle for Azeroth, the Forsaken moved back into Tirisfal Glades, and were able to successfully clear some of the plague from Brill, using it as a new base of operations. Then finally, using help from the Horde's new allies in Maldraxxus, the Forsaken cleansed the entirety of the ruins of Lordaeron from the plague the Banshee Queen had unleashed upon it. And then in an ironic twist of history, the sister of the Forsaken's former master, Kalia Menethil, helped the Forsaken regain their home and start a new government with the Second Desolate Council. The Forsaken people have realized that there are many points of view when it comes to the life of an undead person. Some wish to regain their past identities, some wish to move on and become a new person, and some are just desperately trying to cope with being undead. In comparison to other races like the elves and humans who have been around for thousands of years, the heritage of the Forsaken has only spanned about 30 painful years, full of decay, vengeance, and ultimately unity. From legends of lore to epic gaming and more, my name's Todd, and thanks for listening. Please take a moment to subscribe so I can continue bringing epic content your way.
I'll hunt you to the ends of the earth if I have to. Do you hear me? To the ends of the earth!